Hi, it's Monday the 10th of October and this is my vlog update. So I last updated in terms of where I was with my health and the changes that were going on this year. Must be a good 6 months ago. And there are a number of reasons why it's taken so long for me to update. I have written blog pieces. I just haven't published them over the last 6 months. And one of those reasons is because I just don't seem to have the brain capacity that I used to. And my emotions are still maybe less so now, but have been on such an emotional roller coaster. It's so changeable. I've been swinging, not just day by day or week by week, how I feel and how I've been processing the experience of everything that's been happening. Has meant that my emotions have really fluctuated. So I didn't want to post an update in terms of where we were. One, because I wasn't entirely sure I was able to articulate in a written form. Two, I wasn't emotionally in a place where I felt that I would be able to communicate in a very positive, my normal positive, Little Miss Sunshine way. But it is coming up to a year, in 4 days actually, when in terms of anniversary, for when I was taken very ill, and I had developed double pneumonia. And so much has happened since then, but the emotional roller coaster is reflective of me not really knowing where I am, what's going to happen. I've just had no real sense of control. Every time I think I'm making headway, something else would happen and it would knock me back. Now, I am, as you probably already know, I'm a fighter. It takes quite a lot to knock me, but this year's been a challenge, and that would be an understatement. I've also been coming to terms with the loss of my nana, who died in November of last year, combined, and the impact of that on the family dynamic. And also I've lost, within the last year, two of my four dogs. And again, anyone who knows me will know that they are the equivalent of my children. Harriet was 13 when she died, I've had her from a pup. That's a really big deal. And Tallulah, who was a rescue, I'd only had her for 3 years, but 3 years long enough that she actually, completely had a piece in my heart. I've actually, over the last year, spent significant periods of time in hospital. I would say of the last year, I've spent at least of those 6 months easily in hospital. And the other 6 months have been interspersed with home intravenous therapy as well. And also the treatment for various digestive issues that I've had, which I won't go too much into on this update. So where am I now? I'm now at a place where I've accepted a lot of things. I've accepted a lot of the changes. I still have hope, but I'm a little bit more, let's say, realistic about my situation. They originally mentioned, when I say they, my consultant at the Royal Brompton originally raised the possibility of going for a transplant back in November of last year, but was hopeful that I would make a good recovery, but was starting to voice it, just to prepare me. And my understanding now with transplant is very different to what I thought I knew about transplant and the process before. They're making huge strides over the last even 5 years in terms of effectiveness, if that's the right word. How and when they start talking about transplant, it's changed a lot. So my point is, when he first mentioned transplant, even though I was as ill as I was, and even though I won't deny there were days where I wondered if I was going to make it out of that admission, but I'm me. I've always managed to come back. And everyone said to me, apart from my consultant, that is, because he doesn't really know me as in me, but everyone who knows me in the personal sense has said, if anyone can do it, if anyone can make a comeback, you can. And you know what? I agree, because I felt the same. I really knew how strong I was and how well I look after myself, and everything that I've studied all of these years. I really, really thought this was a blip. Granted, a significant blip, but a blip. Now, that's not to say I've completely given up hope that I can't stabilise, but I think the reality is this is my new norm. And as a consequence of that being my new norm, I am accepting of the fact that in order for me to extend my life beyond the next 18 months, 2 years, and certainly to give me any hope of an improved quality of life beyond what it is now, I will need a double lung transplant. Yeah, I'm just not in an emotional place with it right now. I'm comfortable with it, but it's taken a year of trying my hardest to reverse it, trying my hardest to make enough of a recovery that this isn't something that's needed in my future. I really thought I was going to beat it. I think one of the turning points for me was when I went for my initial consultation with Harefield, which is the transplant centre, and the consultant that I saw there, when I said to him about my expectations, he said, "You're fighting nature." And that's actually really helped, because I was putting ridiculous expectations on myself, that I could somehow beat cystic fibrosis and the disease process that goes on. And I was beating myself up that I wasn't going to, that all of my knowledge, all of my experience, everything that I've learned isn't enough. I was beating myself up that I'd done something wrong. But now I realise I'm fighting an inevitability, that one day, in order to move forward, I will need to accept a new set of lungs, but a lung transplant. I hope that it will be further down the line than I think it probably will be, but I'm hopeful. So my assessment in November the 2nd and November the 3rd, 2-day assessment where they're really thorough, go through further investigations and tell me about a week later, I believe, whether I am a candidate, whether they would consider me to put on the transplant list. They may also say that we think that I am suitable, but they may say that actually I don't need to go on the transplant list straight away. Or they may say, we need you to go on we recommend you go on the transplant list, imminently. There's a number of different factors that decide that. My understanding and my expectations are that I will probably, assuming that I get the option, I imagine at this stage, obviously things change, but I would imagine that I will ask to go on the transplant list after Christmas so that I can just have another Christmas with my family without having the potential of a call coming, hanging over our heads. Now, they've also said to me that with my blood type, with my dimensions, and with my what they call HLA antigen or antibody, as a combination of those three things, the likelihood is I would probably, if I was really lucky, I would be waiting about 18 months before an appropriate donor became available for me. Obviously they can't predict, but typically that's what they expect. And I think the reality for me is if I was to have another year like I've just had, I think I'll be begging for a transplant in a year's time. And I have to be honest, that's the reality. I've had a run of a few really good days. I have been on some oral antibiotics over the last week or so because I thought I was starting to go in the other direction, but they seem to be doing something. So the last few days I've really felt a lot better in myself, and I've been able to do a few things that I haven't previously. That said, I also know how fragile my situation is. It doesn't take a huge amount for me to get very, very ill quickly. And with that all in mind, my expectations are that I'll go on the transplant list in January. That being said, that is assuming that I even get the opportunity, because they may find something in the assessments that suggests that I'm not a suitable candidate. So, of course, the outcome I would like to see is that I am a candidate, and that potentially I get listed in the January. That's my expectations where I am now. Quality of life right now. My head's in a really good place. My mindset's come back again. I feel clear and positive about where I'm going in the future. I trust that I have a future beyond the next couple of years. And having that kind of acceptance of where I am has really helped that mindset. My goodness me, has it been a roller coaster? I know I keep saying that, but it really, you have no idea how much of a roller coaster it's been. So changeable, and as a consequence it's not easy to really know what to do for the best or how to feel. And also it's looking at the, not looking at it, it's watching, for me it's watching the impact of me and my situation on the people that I love the most. It's an interesting experience being on oxygen 24 hours a day. I had a day the other day actually where I think I had 2 days actually, where my oxygen readings were acceptable for me to come off it during the day at rest, which is really liberating. But it's become the norm now, me being on oxygen, and I'm becoming much more confident about going out with it, and it's sort of just become part of my norm. That said, if I was comparing my quality of life to that of 18 months ago, it's pretty much unrecognisable. I mean, this morning, if I give you an example, I'm actually exhausted this afternoon. And what have I done today? What have I achieved today? I have achieved getting up, doing all my treatments. I had a bath. I washed and dried my hair, and I put some makeup on. I've played around making a couple of videos, and I've obviously had some breakfast and lunch and things. And that's it. And I'm exhausted. I really can't do much more than that. And that's a good day. That's the reality. That's a good day. Am I happy? I'm happy. Genuinely. I'm so blessed that I'm surrounded by people that love me and who are willing to sacrifice to make sure I'm okay. I mean, I'm just so blessed. I'm just so blessed on so many levels. So while my life might not right now be exactly where I'd planned I would be at 37, I'm still really happy. I've just started a new venture, which gives me something to focus on during the day. I'm still able to answer the phone for Tom Clinic. I'm still able to generally manage the diary as much as I can. Neil's been a great help, and the team I've got at Tom Clinic, just pulling together, have just been amazing, and taking a lot of the strain and worry of running the practice off me. I've just got so much to be grateful for. I really have. And that's why now I feel that it's about focusing on what you have got. And I'm always mindful there's always people far worse off than I am. Even in my most challenging moments, you look around and you look at the kind of the healthcare the healthcare provision that I have, compared to, say, some, other people maybe who have CF in different parts even of the country, or, in Europe, around the world, or whatever. I'm just so grateful for my situation, really. I mean, so grateful. But I do feel now's the time for me to share the realities of living with CF, in the interests of it raising awareness and potentially facilitating in some way finding a cure sooner, so that other people don't have to live with the limitations and that's the reality. It doesn't matter how I positive thought it. The reality is that at the time in my life where my businesses were booming and I was at the top of, or getting towards the top of my game, loving my career, this is what it is. There's so many limitations that CF, the realities of this stage of cystic fibrosis, does bring. So I'm not going to, sugarcoat it. It is what it is. But at the same time, as I say, there are many other conditions out there that are awful. There are many other people who are suffering far worse than I am. But that's not to say that either myself or anyone else living with CF, isn't worthy of raising awareness of this situation, of something that, potentially with a cure, could really transform so many lives. As I said on my other video, not just the people with CF, but the people, in terms of the the ripple effect of everyone it affects. So that's my update. That's kind of where I am. I know I've rambled a little bit, but it's my own personal blog, so I'm allowed to do that. And I do like the fact that Mr. Lincoln has been, overseeing the blog. Love you all. Bye.